Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Rich Fritzky Show. It's been a couple of weeks since I journeyed down to the bowels of Western Tennessee, Maggie and I, to visit her family, her sister and her family. They live just outside of Nashville in Kingston Springs. So we spent about a week down there in good old Tennessee. What I want to tell you is I was pleasantly surprised, even shocked, if you will, to read column after column, story after story in newspaper venues in the Deep South, in Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, even Texas, where the Trumpian line wasn't being echoed or trumpeted, where something entirely different was. And it gave me hope. That's a good thing. Hope is a very, very good thing. The first that took me aback was an article entitled "Everybody Plays the Fool," and it was by Leonard Pitts of the Miami Herald, who wrote to Trumpers everywhere. He suggested that we may not know it, but that even the members of Trump's own inner circle, as we have been reminded, given the January 6th hearings that have been now publicly and widely visited by a cross-section of Americans, that President Trump's own daughter, his own son, his aides, his attorney general, all believed his absurd claim that he was cheated out of the 2020 election to be just that, to be absurd. Eric Hirschman said it was nuts. And his Attorney General, William Barr, feared his boss was, and I quote, detached from reality. But, and here's the part that relates to all those who continue to support our former president, that relates to all of them. Even though his own people told him quite clearly that there was no election fraud, he still told you something else. He told you a lie. A bizarre fable about a vast and Byzantine conspiracy that involved Democrats, Republicans, poll workers everywhere, all across the country, truck drivers, a polling machine manufacturer, and even the Venezuelan leader and agents across the seas. Wow, what a gathering of thieves. Leonard Pitts even suggested maybe Bigfoot on the grassy knoll. We all know this. We know that lie brought thousands of you to the National Mall in the attack on the United States Capitol a year ago on January 6th. What is less often discussed is that he also used this lie to tap folks like you for donations to the tune of $250 million for what was purported to be his official election defense fund, something that never existed. Something that never was. Your money went elsewhere, my friends, including the Trump Hotel, the Trump Organization, etc., into your beloved once president's own pockets. Falling in love with Trump may have been such an easy thing to do, but there was no guarantee that the one you loved was ever going to love you back. Donald Trump doesn't love you. He's the con man from Queens who cares about four things only: his oversized ego, his wealth, oh yes, women, and most certainly his return to power, his return to center stage. Leonard Pitts, I remind you, is a columnist for the Miami Herald. John Broderick of the Savannah Tribune wrote bizarrely but brilliantly about what he actually foresaw as a two-state solution, imagining us as a country divided in two. One for the liberal, progressive Dems, and the other for the capitalistic-driven Republicans. And then Bernie Rabick of the Miami Herald wrote a long column entitled, "What Has Happened to the Glue Which Holds Us Together?" sadly lamenting that it has been lost. And then there was an article entitled, "A New Poll Shows Fewer Believers" by a David Marcus. He wrote that the latest report is that now only 81% of Americans believe in God, down from the once 99% 3 decades ago. A more cynical people we indeed are. But please don't underestimate God. He's been here before, seen his people wander and stray for thousands of years. Sometimes rationally, it seems inevitable that atheism must prevail. that science will finally put the nail in the coffin of divine providence. But there are questions, my friends, that only a God can answer about our souls, about death, about meaning, about purpose, reason, love, about the magic in the moonlight, the beauty of the earth, the sun, and the magical morning mist. Personally, as you know, I'm a believer. I'm a man of faith, a Matthew's gospel guy who holds tight to the love, forgiveness, and mercy that Christ promised. Another piece was about the Texas Republican platform demanding the repeal of the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965, which has already been watered down by a Supreme Court ruling, as have laws negating open carry, preclusion, and buying restrictions for weapons. The Wild West sadly was nothing compared to what we're going to be. Our court, our Supreme Court, knows not its own America, as it also just struck down Roe, which 2/3 of all Americans fiercely support. 2/3, 66+%. The clock has been turned back 50 years, as this Trump-fed court is of the mind that the right to privacy means nothing, then that it has the right to ignore the 14th Amendment and strip away the freedom of a woman to determine what she has the right to do with her own body. It is hers, I remind you. I have many children, and I am no personal fan of abortion, but I have no right whatsoever, and neither does my state, to interfere with that which is personal to every woman, and well deserves and well ought to remain so. It is bizarre, and there's going to be hell to pay. That Texas Republicans applaud it and also give the middle finger to marginalized groups in their platform, including a push to repeal hate crimes and restore all Confederate monuments, is beyond sad. They are coming after our basic rights, as is our Supreme Court, and they are not alone, and there is going to be, as I just said before, hell to pay. The Texas Republican Party also proposes a nuclear option. Get this, it's clause 224, a possible option to just simply remove Texas from the rest of the United States by demanding a 2023 referendum on whether or not to secede from these United States of America. No matter that Texas's original independence was, by the way, of course, in the name of white supremacy and protecting slavery, founded. When it joined the Confederacy in the Civil War, it was more of the same. Just that old imagined threat of an organized Democratic base being interested in being proactive on equality is too much for them. Here's just a thought that went through my mind as I read those articles in the South last week. The Supreme Court is becoming like Chernobyl itself, a toxic waste dump of autocracy and denialism. We will survive this impasse. And hey, on the uplifting side, and I really do mean uplifting side, I just watched the hearing that the January 6th committee held with one extraordinary witness, Cassidy Hutchinson, who blew the doors off it all finally. One who was in the very room where it happened. Finally one with courage enough. Finally one with honor enough. We now know with certainty that he acted the part of a vile brute and gave not a damn about the office he held, the country he served, nor the Constitution he swore to protect. Why with certainty? Because honor and truth and duty and forthrightness and sadness and strength all dripped from her at one and the same time. I watched her, I heard her, I hung on every word. I believed, I know. God bless her. God bless her courage. God bless her stepping forward, for in her doing so, she maybe, just maybe, saved her country, the one that had been threatening to divide itself into two. Lord above, she indeed spoke truth to power, in what I pray will be a historic way, an empowering way. Oh, sure, some of those who have long been duped by Trump may mind-bogglingly remain loyal to him. but it will be increasingly difficult to do so. Difficult to continue to defend one who assaults his own, behaves like a petulant little child, cares not a dime about anyone in his service, tosses food at his own like a thug does, madly rips off the tablecloth, one who goes for the throat when truth disturbs him. "They're not going to hurt me," he said. See him, please see him as he was that day, and as he remains, the one who welcomed the assault, invited the hanging of his own vice president, for God's sake, for not committing the crime he demanded of him. Not only was he the author of the flagrant, blatant, so very obvious lie that gave voice to this madness itself, but also to the orchestration of the very assault on our capital, which he apparently so very much hoped to be pictured at the center of, were it not for the wisdom and integrity of those responsible for his safety. Oh, to be Napoleonic, to be the warrior king there on the barricades before the Capitol, leading the Trump army forward in what was, no doubt, an assault upon the very government he took his oath of office to protect. God bless Cassidy Hutchinson. Hope springs eternal, my friends. It always does. I'll be back with you soon. Thanks for listening. As always, take care.